In this video, we will summarise Macbeth, Act 1, Scenes 1 to 7. Before we begin, take a second to hit the subscribe button. The tragedy Macbeth begins with a storm brewing.
A mighty storm!
And the introduction of 3 haggard witches. The witches have bad intentions, and they reveal to their audience their warped ideas that bad is in fact good, and good is bad in the eerie chant, fair is foul, and foul is fair. After quick deliberation, the witches make plans to meet again upon the heath after the battle to confront Macbeth. When the witches disappear, we are confronted by Duncan, the King of Scotland.
Hail to the King!
He is in deep conversation with the captain of his army, who has just come back from victory against a rebel army led by MacDonald. The captain tells how Macbeth had unseamed MacDonald from knave to chaps, highlighting Macbeth's brave but violent character. Duncan decrees that the Thane of Cawdor be put to death, and that Macbeth, the hero of the victorious army, be given Cawdor's title. Near the battlefield, the witches appear. They bump into Macbeth and Banquo. The witches hail Macbeth as Thane of Glamis, his original title, and Thane of Cawdor. Macbeth is baffled by the second title, as he has not yet heard of King Duncan's decision. He believes the Thane of Cawdor lives an honest man. The witches also declare that Macbeth will be king one day.
I am the king and will not be. I am the king.
Banquo asks the witches to tell him about his future. They call Banquo lesser than Macbeth and greater, and not so happy yet much happier. Then they tell him that he will never be king, but that his children will be. Macbeth implores the witches to explain what they meant by calling him Thane of Cawdor, but they vanish into thin air. Whilst Banquo is relatively dismissive of the witches' prophecies, Macbeth is hooked. He delivers a soliloquy to the audience, wondering whether the crown will simply fall to him or whether he will have to perform a dark deed in order to take it by force. Later on, during a meeting between the king and his noblemen, Duncan announces his intention to name his son Malcolm the heir to his throne. Macbeth declares his joy, but realises Malcolm now stands between him and the crown. Plans are made for Duncan to dine at Macbeth's castle that evening, and Macbeth goes on ahead of the royal party to inform his wife of the king's impending arrival. Back in Macbeth's castle, Lady Macbeth has received a letter from Macbeth detailing his murderous ambitions. Lady Macbeth is concerned Macbeth is too full of the milk of human kindness to carry out the deeds alone, so she begs the spirits that tend on mortal thoughts unsex me here. Lady Macbeth wants to get rid of her feminine qualities, trading her milk for gall in order to be able to assist Macbeth to commit regicide. When Macbeth enters the castle, she tells him that Duncan will never see tomorrow and warns Macbeth to look like the innocent flower but be the serpent under it, which basically means they will dine with Duncan that evening and kill him later that night.
There's a snake in my boot!
As the evening progresses, and Duncan, the Scottish lords and their attendants all dine at Macbeth's castle, Macbeth begins to have a change of heart.
I can change the future!
He realises that killing King Duncan will bring him eternal damnation, and that the only reason he is considering it is to fulfil his own ambition.
I immediately regret this decision.
Lady Macbeth enters. Macbeth tells her that it will proceed no further with this business. Lady Macbeth, however, doesn't listen. She calls Macbeth a coward and questions his masculinity.
Come on over here! Come on, coward! Coward! I know that I want to punch you in the nose!
When you durst do it, she says, then you were a man. He asks her what will happen if they fail, and Lady Macbeth promises as long as they are bold, they will be successful. Then she tells him her plan. While Duncan sleeps, she will give his guards wine to make them drunk, which would allow Macbeth to sneak in and murder Duncan and frame the guards. Macbeth eventually relents and agrees to commit the murder.
I'm going to murder you. I'm going to come into your house one night while you're asleep. I'm going to cut your throat. This isn't a joke. You're going to die.
To summarise, 3 witches appear in thunder, lightning and in rain, vowing to meet Macbeth. The captain tells Duncan that brave Macbeth has defeated MacDonald's rebel army, and Duncan decides to give Macbeth the title of Thane of Cawdor. The witches reappear and tell Macbeth he is not only going to be Thane of Cawdor, but also king. Banquo is told he won't be king, but his children will be. Lady Macbeth reads a letter from Macbeth and begs the spirit to unsex her so she can help him kill the king. After having second thoughts, Macbeth is eventually persuaded by his wife to go through with the murder and kill King Duncan. Key quotes. You can pause the video here and study some of the key quotes throughout Act 1. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.